Thank you for listening to the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. Please support the show by subscribing to and leaving a 5-star rating for the show on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podbean, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, and any of your favorite podcast platforms. You can also support the show by going to our website, blackandgoldhockey.com, where there's always exciting articles by the B&G writing staff. While you're there, don't forget to click on the fanatics.com banner for a great sports fan shopping experience.
Hey, you done yet? We gotta start the show.
Behind the net to Sanderson, Orr! Bobby Orr! Scores for the Boston Bruins!
30 seconds left in the period. The Bruins are shorthanded. Ray Bjork.
Ray Bjork from the face-off circle to the right of Reggie Whitman. Fired it down and Whitmore blew it. Did he ever? To Bergeron on the drive, save, rebound, he's loose. Sagan kicks him loose. Bergeron scores! Patrice Bergeron with the point of the dagger in their throats. They rip it out of Toronto's hands and kill the beast. The Boston Bruins have won it after being 3 down in the third.
Hey, Bruins fans, welcome back to the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. We're recording episode 223. It is April 11th, 2021, and this episode and show is sponsored by betonline.ag. Please go to betonline.ag and put in code CLNS50 to receive a sweet welcome bonus. We have a very big show today. We have a lot of topics we're going to discuss. Welcome in a special guest. His name is Brett Howard. You can follow him at the Beehive Pod, and he's got some good things coming up on our podcast network that you can go on blackandgoldhockey.com and check out all of our 9 to 10 shows that we're going to be having. But Brett, welcome to the program, my friend. Thank you so much for the time.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we got together on a live stream. I believe it was a Bruins game. And we spent a couple hours together, so I thought that, and we talked afterwards, and I thought that your addition to a member of B&G would be awesome, and you're going to start your own podcast, and I'm excited about that. So why don't you tell some of the potential listeners of your program a little bit about yourself and how long you've been a Bruins fan, and what your program is going to be about.
Well, first off, been a Bruins fan since birth. I was born into the Bruins family, if you will. My dad was a big Bruins fan, so that's all I've known my whole life. Other than that, the podcast is going to be called The Beehive. The episodes will include talk from just like what's going on in the week. I'm going to have a little hotter not segment for which players are playing good, which ones need to step their game up a little bit. And then the rest of the podcast, I'm going to go in depth of Bruins players in the past and who players that have worn the Spoke B, the history of the players, where they came from, where they went to. The first episode is actually going to be on Willie O'Ree and his struggles coming from Canada, New Brunswick, where I'm located in Canada myself. And his struggles just going through the NHL, going from what was somewhat the Quebec League into the Spoke B, and just everything there is to do about Bruins and where he went, his special journey as a Boston Bruin.
Awesome, man. I'm looking forward to that program and your addition to the network, too. We do have a bunch of great shows, so go to blackandgoldhockey.com. All the information's right down there in the ticker that you need. But no, that's really cool, man, and a great little story. And you're from Canada, which is even cooler.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So, I mean, we have our crew of, I think we have 28 to 30. The number keeps changing, but we're just so versed in all areas of North America. So it's a really cool community, and I'm glad you're a part of it.
Yeah, it's super exciting to be a part of it. I'm excited for my chance to show my knowledge of the game, and hopefully you guys are going to come along for the ride.
Absolutely. I'll be there.
Yeah.
Before we do get into the hockey talk, I do want to talk about show sponsor betonline.ag. Betonline.ag has the fastest and easiest way to bet on your sports action. Football might be over, but NBA, college basketball is over. I got to redo that. And the NHL are in full swing. Betonline even covers awards, TV shows, and reality TV. Real-time updated odds and props on almost anything you can imagine. BetOnline.ag has you covered for all the news, scores, and odds. It's the best way to place your bets, and it's free to sign up. Head over to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore, folks. Please get in on the action, and don't forget to use that promo code CLNS50. That's CLNS50 to receive a 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. BetOnline.ag, your online sportsbook experts. So let's get right into the hockey talk, and unfortunately, we got to start off with it's a little remembrance. A year ago today, the hockey community lost a valued member of its its staff or player. Sorry, I'm wording that totally wrong. But Colby Cave passed away 1 year ago today from complications of I believe it was a brain aneurysm, and it was very tragic. My experience with Colby goes back to interviewing on when he was with the Providence Bruins. He did play for the Boston Bruins, a couple call-ups, and regardless of his time in Boston or in Providence, what he was just a character guy, somebody that would never step away or shrug his shoulders or roll his eyes when somebody asked him a question. He was always there to be there for the public, the media, and his teammates. So it's a really sad day. And I do want to mention that the Edmonton Oilers continue to have a memorial fund. The information's over here for the YouTube viewers, but I'm going to say it for the podcast listeners. The Colby Cave Memorial Fund, you could please go to nhl.com/Oilers/community/Colby Cave Memorial Fund and donate any amount that you possibly can to find relief or a cure for what happened to him and in his brain and so on. So I personally want to. I know he just got married and then passed away. It was just a tragic time. But to his wife, continued thoughts, and his family members' continued thoughts. And Brett, if you have anything to say about Colby Cave and what you might have saw from him in the past, and please let us hear it.
Well, his smile. Everybody talked about his smile, how infectious it was, how happy he was just to be a part of the team, just to be a part of the organization, how much pride he took in being a Bruin. It's super sad. There's not much more you can say other than that. I've had a family member who also has had a brain aneurysm, and he's going through the recovery right now, and it's very tough. It's very tough to watch. And I don't know, thoughts and prayers out to everybody involved in the Cave family. It's just awful.
Yeah, thoughts continue for your family member too, Brett.
Thank you.
So let's move on to I do want to mention, I keep forgetting to do this. We do have a Patreon account, and we're giving away prizes today. We're giving away 3 prizes. We missed last week due to some personal problems, and so we're going to give a prize away today. So we're going to give 2 Bruins related prizes, and we're giving away the Charlie Coyle hand signed jersey. Yeah. This is going today, guys. So get in on this. If you're here right now, here's the information right now. Go to patreon.com/Black and Gold Hockey Podcast and donate $1 per episode. It's a very small investment to get some really cool stuff. So, and we would certainly appreciate it. We have we have signed pucks and so on. That's what we're going to do, is 2 signed pucks today and a hand signed jersey. All right, so let's get into it, buddy.
All right, let's go.
The discussion is about last week's game versus the Philadelphia Flyers on Monday in a 3-2 loss. Tuesday against the Flyers again. These back-to-backs are just a killer sometimes in a condensed schedule. A 4-2 Bees win, and Thursday and against Washington, and obviously yesterday afternoon's game, which I streamed, and I was online for like 5 hours. It was crazy.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So let's talk about last week's game and where we see this team moving forward. We're on the fringe of that 4th position in the Mass Mutual division in these pandemic times, and obviously we're going to talk about the trade deadline that's coming up. So what are your thoughts on the games last week and where we need to be better?
Well, I'm glad to see the compete levels back at some point there. What we were going win-loss, I think in March, almost every other game, win-loss, win-loss. That's tough on the guys in the room. That's tough on the morale. Like one thing I did notice that was really great is like most of the young guys that were injected to lineup did do what they were supposed to do. There wasn't a whole lot of looking around. There was a couple defensive blips, but like we've talked about in the past, that's going to happen with this young defensive core this year. The biggest problem is staying healthy. I don't remember the last time the Bruins had a season like this where it's just injury after injury, especially with it being the shortened season. The older guys we have, like Bergeron, you got to give that guy props, man. Even when he tripped over the blue line, comes back with the hat trick the next game. He's pure captain material. You love to see it, but these guys are going to need to break. I know the season just because of the Vancouver situation, the season got pushed back till the May 16th, I believe. Bruce Cassidy on his presser today was talking about it'll be nice to have a little bit of break, but the play overall has been good. It's competitive. We're starting to score goals again, which is nice. The goalies, the young goalies, like what else can you say about that? It's unbelievable the prospects that we have coming out of the goalie way. So yeah, I love the compete level. Obviously, the secondary scoring still lacking. Marchand can't win every game for us, as we saw last game. He's gonna have nights off. I would love to see Pat. Like, I have a weird theory about the pasta thing. I noticed he switched his skates and his stick for this year, and that sometimes that puts a toll on a guy, and especially in a shortened season. I don't know if that was the best idea for him, but he's sponsored by Bauer through and through. He's marketed by them. He's got to wear the new stuff. But I'm very curious if that's has something to do with his puck handling. I noticed he's having a tough time staying on his feet. But yeah, I don't know. What have you thought, Mark?
It's different because it's hot and cold with pasta. We have no consistency going on. We did a little earlier. We saw a glimpse of it, but I just don't know if the 5-on-5 scoring issue is pushing Bruce Cassidy to points that he needs to shuffle the lineup, which is not a comfort zone for Pasta. Maybe
No.
I mean, he's to me. I don't want to, and I'm not going to call him the perfection line anymore. I'm tired of that.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not perfect. They make mistakes. We've
No.
seen it. Bergie on Monday night tripping over the blue line. But I'm not gonna give him crap for it either because he was trying to do it, and it was an outlet pass to. They were just unorganized.
Accident.
Yeah, exactly. But I just if in need, make the changes to the lineup, but do it on a good thing. Don't do it when it's like you need to push the button to do it, because that obviously affects your teammates, the chemistry that keeps going on a certain line. But I get the move, but sometimes I don't want to see him broken up. I'd rather see him broken up in other areas of the lineup than the top line. But
well, the one thing too with Smith going up to that top line, I think he's got like 14 points in his last 16 games. I love that. I've loved his play when he was in Nashville. I loved the energy he had. When we signed him, I was very excited about the signing, and it's starting to look like it's going to pay off. I just hope he keeps up the offensive numbers. Butchie was praising him in his presser today, actually.
Yeah, and I'm very impressed with his game lately. It seems like the more of a role he gets, getting away from that third line with Coyle and higher trust, and playing with top caliber players on this Boston Bruins team has really brought his point production out, obviously, with the numbers that you mentioned. But also he's doing the right things that we saw in Nashville and we heard about for so many people that, we're talking about how much of a good player he was and his shooting percentage and so on. That's been picked up too. So his all around game and comfort level for me is really coming to fruition. So, but I don't want to see him lose that point producing edge as we continue to try to find that secondary scoring by putting him down in a line with Coyle, who's seemingly going through his struggles, trying to get an assist lately is tough. I mean, I know he got two of them the other night, or one of them the other night, but still, we need more from him.
Cassidy actually was literally saying the exact same thing this morning. He said, I think it's 4 assists in the last 5 games, which points are points. He's a big guy, but Cassie said when he scored his last goal against the Rangers, the reason why he scored it is because he took his big body, he pushed to the inside, and he roofed it. That's something we saw all last year with Coyle, his edge work, his blunt force. Like, that's just something I don't know if it's because he hasn't had winger stability this year, and he's definitely a creature of habit. We've seen that in the past. When he gets guys he likes, they stick with them. Like last year, we had a third line that didn't change all year, and look, they produced a lot of points for us and helped us win a lot of games. He's just got to get back to that. Even Bruce said it's on him, right? Like, what much more can you do? You give him the tools, but I'm starting to wonder if it has something to do with the rotating winger, like how Krejci over the past couple of years, it's been tough for him, point production wise, just because he doesn't have stability on his line. He did with JD. Now that's gone. Thank God they got some chemistry with Richie and Krejci. But yeah, I would love to see Coyle start putting the puck in the back of the net again.
Yeah, definitely. Circling back to talking about last week's games, what are your thoughts on this Boston Bruins team that seems to be like up in for everything when you're playing a team like Washington? We've seen good games against Philadelphia. You've seen good games against Pittsburgh, but when you come, I mean, even the Philly game, I'm going to throw in there. Yeah, pretty much. I'm just going to wind it down. You beat Washington Capitals on Thursday night, but you come into Saturday and lose to the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah,
I don't get the up and down inconsistency with playing teams that are under you, but when you are playing teams above you, and it almost means like it really means something that we need to get these 2 points. They're up for it, and they're playing awesome hockey. Well, not awesome hockey. It's a little more competitive, but we want that 2 points type of hockey. And other days, it's just like, if Flashes have you even showed up?
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing I noticed. It's almost like they're not getting up for these games against the points we should be just stealing off the board from Buffalo, New Jersey, New York. New York we played better against than the other two. At Buffalo, I guess you could say we played good, but when they were in their stretch, we didn't play the greatest against them. There was a couple of nail-biting moments in those games, and it is very confusing because you think those would be the games the guys want to get up for. They want to get ready for. We need these 2 points, easy 2 points. We can make a bigger gap between Philadelphia. But that the leadership group is getting the boys up for those games where they need the points. Bergeron, Swayman talked about the one game where they made the comeback. He said that Bergeron just class act in the dressing room. Just, everything he says is everyone's listening. It's the drop of the pin, right? I'm starting to wonder, are the leadership group not as invested in these games that they think they're just going to win? That's just, it's very baffling to me.
Yeah, and Bruce Cassidy has mentioned that several times in recent weeks at his press conferences, saying that a certain member of the crew needs to step it up in secondary scoring issues, but also he's pinpointed several times about leadership too. So take that for what it's worth and move on. But and I will touch on Bruce Cassidy just a little further. This week's games, I saw a little bit of his body language is much better. He's more upbeat about having a conversation with reporters via Zoom. I know the Zoom thing sucks and it's not in person and blah, blah, blah. But in the previous weeks, even a loss or even a win that they came back, that his body language is just like basically, and I'm paraphrasing here, basically saying like, we're getting to the trade deadline. I need some pieces to make this freaking work. It's kind of given off that he wants to say something to media, but it's almost like his job's depending on it, that he doesn't. So, I mean, it's just my crazy thinking. And I know my buddy Jimmy Murphy mentioned something about it on Twitter and so on, but I kind of followed up with that. I was like, wow, I actually did see that. And I am noticing that. But, as soon as you throw anything out there, little negative about Bruce Cassidy, you're going to get somebody jumping on you like, it's not his fault, it's the players. So
yeah, well, he just looked deflated. That's what I thought. He looked very he was dealing with a group for a month there that almost looked disinterested, and it's hard to rally guys together if they're not into it. Yeah, like you said, you pretty much said everything that I was thinking. But other than his body language, you're right. He looked very deflated.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to another topic. Get away from last week's games, and this is not we're not going in the right direction when it comes to like trying to figure things out and so on. But the injury list continues to pile up for this Boston Bruins team. But there's good signs that the club is starting to get important members that are healthy. I understand everybody in the lineup is an important person, but particularly defenseman Charlie McAvoy and goaltender Tuukka Rask could return sometime this week. They're targeting McAvoy for Tuesday and either Rask for Tuesday and Thursday. But I also do want to go through the whole list and just mention some of the things that have been brought up. And this is from CBS.com, so take it for what that's worth. But Andre Kasha is still out with an upper body injury. He's listed on the IR. It's concussion purposes. John Moore has season-ending surgery. Tuukka Rask, upper body IR, could return as mentioned. Brendan Carlo, upper body injury IR. Yaroslav Halak is out with COVID-19 protocol. Charlie McAvoy, I did say that he could return, but as listed right now, he's out with an upper body injury and won't play today against Washington. Trent Frederick is an illness, non-COVID related, as it's been heavily in the news. And most recently, as of yesterday, I believe, Matt Grzelcyk has an upper body injury, and he won't play today. And he's listed as day-to-day, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's day-to-day. I saw that before we came on. Yeah, you're right. It's like I said earlier, when have we seen this, like the defensive squad we're going to put together tonight? Lazan, Akan, Zaboral, Camphor, Tenorti, Clifton. It's that wouldn't be a preseason lineup defensive squad. So it is very alarming, but injuries are part of the game. There's not much you can do about it. And I think the coaching staff is a lot more confident than the fans we are in making the playoffs and putting the distance in Philadelphia. You heard Bruce Cassidy said today with a big grin, "Oh, we got a great squad today." He knows what's going on here. He's putting everything he can on the ice. Carlo, that's a tough one. That one's, for me, that's a big tough one. Miller, he has a scheduled day off today, if I'm not correct, because of the back-to-backs and the work management load. I'm not, this will go into the trade talk that we're going to talk about later, but it's scary seeing the defensive lineup we're going to put out. I have faith in the kids. I have all year. There's going to be learning curves like we've all talked about. But I don't know what more can you do other than hope for the best for all these guys like Kasha. Like I would have loved to see him like blow up here, watching his highlight videos in Anaheim. He looks like a great player, and it's sad to see, concussion protocols. It's tough. It's part of the game. We saw it with David Backes for years.
Yeah. Injuries are not fun, and making fun of them is not something that I like to do on the regular, which I don't do anyway. But you talk about Kasha. Let's just get right into that for a little extra content. Would you retain him? He's an RFA. He does have arbitration rights, which is a little concerning, but also in a salary cap world where the Boston Bruins are going to need pretty much every million to save to address certain needs, possibly next year with a higher cap flexibility that Don Sweeney is going to be working with. Is Kasha like a low risk, a couple $1 million retain for a year, kind of show me? Or is it fair to say this Boston Bruins team should save that $2.6 million and walk away from the player that's often injured and a bit of a risk?
I think it all depends on how he recovers from this one. The biggest thing with him, like you said, his arbitration rights. I'm going to read a tweet that I saw today from Pierre LeBrun. The lessons of the Vegas expansion draft are truly being felt this time around. Front offices more prepared and sensitive to how any decision in the next 24 hours can affect the ability to prepare for the Seattle draft. as it's been brought up countless times to him. I know that he's talking about the trade deadline, but this is another thing that, like, is something that's going to happen in the offseason. We have the expansion draft coming up. In this shortened season, it's a lot for these GMs to juggle this year. You saw what Tampa did yesterday. They had to get super creative to get David Savard. I would love to see it work out for him. You always hate seeing guys with concussion problems go down, retire early, especially the style of play that kid he plays hard. Whether he scored goals for us or not, he still pushes play. So if they see a low risk, high reward in it, I wouldn't mind them retaining him, but for the right price, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all for if you're going to be a player on this, but injury history always plays another angle too, and it sucks that we have to do that because these people are humans, they have jobs and so on, but it's also a business. And when you try to address certain needs elsewhere, sometimes you need to walk away from somebody else. But ultimately, the threshold is everybody wants, Kasha to be healthy and good enough to play and either be an asset on the ice or be an asset in the trade market. So regardless, hopefully he gets his stuff squared away. I don't think he's going to return this year. I mean, there's only 18 games remaining in the season. I just don't think that's enough time for him to get, and he's got to earn the return to the lineup. Not just his salary dictates his return to the lineup, which I absolutely hate, because sometimes I think ownership says, well, if he's ready, we got to play him. We got to get the best out of him because he's like at $2.6 million a year. I want to see the best players play regardless of what you make on your salary.
Well, and that's the thing, like right now, adding on to what you say, where does he go? If he's healthy tomorrow, right? Where does he go in the lineup? Obviously, it would take weeks before he's game ready. But I'm just saying, who's playing bad enough that you're going to inject him into the lineup? We have Bjork sitting out for who knows why. And I know he hasn't put up the greatest points, but still, he's out of the lineup because there's just no room for him. You have Richie on the left side. You have Marshy, obviously. And then Debrusk, he's been playing better than he was at the beginning of the year ever since he's come back for COVID protocol. So just the left side, you're going to keep consistently sticking him on the fourth line. Eventually, it's going to mess up his mojo because he's just in and out, up and down, and it's just unattainable, right? So I don't see Kasha coming back this year at all.
Yeah, I don't either. We'll definitely talk about Anders Bjork a little bit further, but. I just want to see everybody healthy. I think if we can there's 18 games, it's really not a lot of time. And I know some of these injuries are significant. But if you get the Carlos back involved, Grizzlick gets more healthy, 100%. I think the team can do okay. The expectations of the Stanley Cup are out the window right now for me, honest to God. I believe that the Boston Bruins are a competitive team. It's dictated in the standings. They're sitting at the fourth place right now. They're I don't have the standings up, but I know that is it 5 points ahead of Philly that's in the fifth?
I think it's 4. But
4, okay. All right.
4.
Close.
4.
That's
we have 2 games in hand. We got 2 games in hand as well.
Right. So all those avenues play a huge role in what's going on. And the teams that you're playing in the remaining games of the season. I mean, you pretty much expelled all your Buffalo games. Your Pittsburgh are going to pick up hot and heavy. The Islanders you're not going to see them much except for coming up. We'll talk about it. But the schedule, regardless of who you play, is a lot of back-to-backs and there's a lot of every other day games. So it's going to take a toll as it has all season because we're at game 38 right now. And for me, I still don't believe that I think if we had like a full training camp, non-COVID times, okay, let's get that right out. We had a regular training camp and everybody was doing their own thing and they could go wherever they want to do their training. I think these players would be more apt to be prepared for this type of season. And I think because they weren't prepared that much, I know they're doing their daily things, but they're not doing the daily grind as they would in a normal, regular season. And by going like 2 weeks and then going right into a season without any training camp, any preseason games and so on, that's probably why we're seeing so many injuries now. It's just, it's just one of those years that your preparedness wasn't totally what you expected that you do on a regular basis. So
Yeah, and to add on to that, like before, I saw a lot of tweets today. Well, this is why we needed Chara. Well, people forget Chara walked away on his own measures. He didn't want the role that Don Sweeney was giving him, and you have to respect that. Like, it's a broken record at this point. I love Chara. Love what he did for this organization. He changed the culture in Boston. But at some point, we have to just get over it and look towards the future. Like you said, it's a weird year. We had no training, pretty much no training camp. A lot of young guys who probably could have used a good training camp, and especially because a lot of the leadership group says Bruce Cassidy knows great load management. He knows, but with these injuries, what more could you do, right?
Yep. Even without the injuries, take the injury factor out, and Chara and Krug were on this team, I would almost think that we'd probably be in the same position.
Yep.
I don't think that those guys, I mean, the leadership and so on in the room and on the ice is so important. I get it. But I think the product would pretty much be the same. I think this Boston Bruins team needs to severely upgrade on like a forward or two or a defenseman or two. And and to build a winner around that. But yeah. I don't know. I'm the narrative of we needed this guy. Why do we walk away from him and this and that? You should have given him all the minutes you want. Washington's giving it to him. Good for him. I mean, he's a 44-year-old freaking player, and he's earning 20 some odd minutes of ice. That's fine. The Boston Bruins weren't willing to give him that. They were going in another direction. And that's one thing that people have to understand. It wasn't a disrespect. It's a business. It's a business decision. But anyway,
I agree.
But back to the topics at hand. This is an interesting one, and I know we bring it up a lot on this program in the past. I'm a Jake Debrusk fan. I just want to see him get better, but we are getting close. The trade deadline is tomorrow. So here's the question I'm throwing out to everybody, including you, Brett, and thank you so much for the time today. I truly appreciate that.
Oh, anytime.
Has the time run out for Boston Bruins forward Jake Debrusk? And as his name continues to be involved in trade rumors as the deadline approaches, well, I'll jump in real quick because I have it fresh in my head. He played a hell of a game the other night, scoring a goal, monkey off his back kind of feeling, but is still inconsistent. They're still not seeing consistent Jake Debrusk, and we need that. We need the secondary scoring. We need his drive. We need him to stop skating along the boards, coming in the wide side. Just try going up the middle and create something there. I love the player, love his energy, but it's just not coming all together for him. Is that something of concern? And will you see him being involved in any move if Don Sweeney does make one tomorrow?
Well, I'll start out first by saying it was nice to see him score again. That I love the guy. He's a great person. It's almost like he had no confidence after the bubble last year or during the bubble last year in the playoffs. To me, it seemed like his game dropped off a little bit there. I have some numbers here. This year, he only has 8 points in 25 games played, including the goal from last night's game. Last year, the 19-20 season, he had 19 goals. And the year before that, I'm pretty sure he had 27.
Yep.
It's so hard to watch because every year it's just getting it's declining, more and more. And if the right deal comes about, I wouldn't be surprised if he's moved. I'm not saying that they should move him. I still think he's the type of guy and player that could get his confidence back and bounce back and get his mojo back, I guess, if you will. The biggest problem I have for it is if you're sending Jake Debrusk the other way, yes, his value is bad right now in this weird year. I'm not convinced that management has given up on Jake Debrusk unless they find the perfect piece. And I quote quotations, perfect piece there, because like we saw with Kasha, nothing's ever perfect. So for me, unless you get the exact deal you were looking for, I say hold on to him for now and let him build some confidence over the next year. We don't know what's going to happen with Krejci. We don't know, what's going to happen with our center depth. I guess you could call it an issue, but he he can be moved up and down the lineup. We saw times last year when he played with Bergeron and Marchand. He looked great. He complemented their line so well. I would just like them to see him play with a little more intensity. I saw somebody say that his play reminded them of Pierre-Luc Dubois in his last games in Columbus, and it kind of worried me because is it like he checked out? Does he not want to be a Bruin anymore? That's one of the biggest concerns to me, I think.
Yeah. I want to see Jake do good, obviously, and I think maybe if he survives this trade deadline, maybe that would be like, okay, woof, wipe the sweat off my forehead and let's go to work. Now I have a little bit of confidence that I'm staying here. I'm not being moved and so on. So, I mean, anything could happen. Any little spark to get him going is awesome, because when he's rolling and other folks are rolling, we've seen this Boston Bruins team be very effective against teams like that, regardless of where they are in the standings. I know it's such a trend that they play down to their freaking opponent sometimes, but still, it's you want to get him going. But I do want to touch on something about what you mentioned about him going up and down the lineup. I think that when Jake Debrusk is sturdy on the second line, or even if he is playing on the third line, which he's going to start today on Coyle's line, if he stays in a spot, he seems to get a little more comfort. He's not that type of player. Like, remember Danton Heinen? He was a mixed bag of tools that can go all the way up the top line to the fourth line and be an impactful player every time he did that. Great two-way forward Danton Heinen was, regardless of what the haters say. Yep. But he is not that type of player. Jake Debrusk seems like a young man that likes to stay where he's at and likes the crew that he works with on a consistent basis. And when he's pulled out of that element, much like what Cassie does a lot, trying to find sparks out of the complete lineup, he gets affected the most. But that's just a personal opinion that I particularly see.
To add on to that too, like you said, Heinen, he was the puck battle king. He'd go in the corner and come out with the puck every single time. Jake Debrusk is not that guy. He needs guys around him that are going to push the play into the middle to him. Like you saw he in his interview yesterday, he chuckled. I forget who asked him the question, but the question was something along the lines of, do you feel more uncomfortable in front of the net? And he said, well, yeah, that's where I score my goals. And it's true. He's not the guy in the corner. He needs to play like a second line player on that third line, because that third line on a lot of clubs would be a second line. And that's something that he needs to realize. You didn't get demoted. You're on a deep team that has three lines. Look at the Leafs. The third line could be a first line on some teams, right? Sure. So for me, it's more of the fact he needs his swagger back. I love watching him play with his swagger, the jersey pumps, the big sellies. Everybody gets infected with it. And I think Coyle and him, if they can get hot together, watch out. They're two guys that they'll just skyrocket. We saw it with Coyle when he got traded. His confidence was unbelievable.
Yeah, but we're also seeing how streaky Coyle can be when he was playing with Minnesota too. Yeah, and I'll say it again. I know I'm beating my dead horse, and it's a broken record, and whatever you want to call it. But that's one of the reasons why I was not a huge fan of the Coyle trade, and it wasn't because they lost Ryan Donato or a draft pick. It was just, I want to make trades from a high point. If this player is producing points, let's go after him, regardless of the price. The price might have dropped because he wasn't lighting it up in Minnesota, but still, I just want to get somebody in there that's fresh, hot, and they can put the puck on the net, and not like, let's trade an asset, a prospect, a pick, and let's just go on a women of prayer and see if a new location in the National Hockey League will spark his career. That's just way too much for me. But once I got to see Coyle play, I got comfort with his puck possession skills. But these point productions just got to get there. I mean, you're driving that third line on a consistent basis, and don't take him off that third line and put him at right wing. Oh,
no. And something to add to that, the contract, if he signed that extension, $5 million. I don't know exactly. It was little north of $5 million a year. I'm 5.2,
sure. I believe.
Yeah, that's a big ticket if a guy's gonna struggle, right? We saw it with Backes. We're almost identically the same type of players, and their younger careers. So yeah, it is concerning with Quill. Mark, I got a question for you. Do you think we're gonna look back on this year and be like, okay, that was weird, but now we're getting back into some normal Bruins jargon and less of the, well, is this team a seller? Is this team like? I'm just curious what you think going into next season, how Bruins fans will perceive what the year was this year.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because everybody's a mixed bag of emotions lately, and within the past year, you can't go to games. There's so much going on in personal life, so much going on in sports lives when you are looking to get away from your normal life to watch a game for 3 hours and get away from the monotony that's going on outside of your windows. But I think once we get more involved into getting the fans back in the stands, getting more relaxed, everybody can get back into somewhat bit of normalcy. I think the fans will come back around. I just think that everybody's really pushing the button, and we'll talk about it later about the fan freakout. But I think everybody will get back to normal. I mean, it's the internet. That's not going to change. You're still going to have crazy assholes just blurting out shit that I think that they just freaking just drop just to stir the pot. And it's almost like running down a hallway with a lighted grenade, a live grenade, and you pick the door with a room full of people, and you toss it in there and you just run. And then you look back and see what happened.
Yeah.
It's basically the internet, Bruins Twitter, hockey Twitter in a nutshell.
It is.
All right. Let's move on to another topic. We got to talk about where in the world is Carmen Sandiego. No, I'm kidding. Where in the world is Anders Bjork? And I also added on, where is Trent Frederick? Interesting topics right here. And here's why I find it interesting, especially when it concerning Anders Bjork. Before Anders got the air quotes doghouse tag on him, I thought he had 4 or 5 games where he was noticeably impactful. Had a couple assists, had a goal, I believe, was getting to those areas that Billy Jaffe and Andrew Raycroft talk about on their Morning Brew Hockey podcast and YouTube channel about getting into the 15-foot area, the top of the crease, back to the hash marks, where the Boston Bruins don't score a ton of goals. I kind of thought Anders was using his speed effectively to weave in and out and be in those areas. Maybe that's a small impact that I'm seeing. You might have a difference of opinion, but I don't know why exactly it was just like, that's it. We're closing the freaking the door when you're going to be watching. And I'm almost thinking, I don't know if there's trade issues or anything like that. We've heard several times from several members of the media saying agents come out and say we're holding the player out because there's a trade coming. We heard it with Palmieri and somebody else. We haven't heard anything with Anders Bjork. To me, I'm not sure if this is a trade or could be, but he's not like a huge piece in a trade. My thought is this is going through the Chris Wagner doghouse where he sat 6 games and couldn't get in his head. And then he came back and obviously Wags was in the lineup, and I thought he did okay. He was physical. Yep. He was showing his speed. So maybe we're just seeing that too. The Frederick thing, just an illness, non-COVID. I don't believe he's in the trade talks. I don't want to see him traded. I think his physicality is something that we need now and in the future, regardless if he's a 4th or a 3rd line role. But what are your thoughts on these 2 players, respectively?
Well, first of all, with Bjork, his numbers aren't there. 5 points, -8, and 30 games played. But he also hasn't been given a whole lot of opportunity to make the coaching staff keep him in the lineup in a bigger role than I think he thinks he deserves. I've always been curious about Bjork and Bruce Cassidy. This is just my opinion. I don't know if Bruce Cassidy is the biggest Bjork fan, as he wasn't a very big Danton Heinen fan when we found out later on. With Trent Frederick, he better not be traded. the Bruins haven't had a player like this in a long time. He reminds me of very young Lucic, just running around, being a menace. But I also think he needed a couple games off. I think he needed a check, I guess, a mental check. He was sick. Things happen, whatever. But he was one of the only players that played at every game up until that point. He looked a little drained at times. Some games it looked like it was almost hard for him to get up. And I wonder if this had to do with the sickness that he's been dealing with. It could very well be. But with Bjork, I know somebody who is kind of close to the Buffalo organization. And I didn't tweet this out or anything because this is just a friend giving me some sort of knowledge that he heard. And he told me that Sweeney's offers Bjork and a conditional first for Hall. Now, Buffalo's working through that to see if they want Bjork or not. That's the rumor that's going around. They want to see if he's a fit. But that's just something I've heard. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was traded. But like I said, I also wouldn't be surprised if this is the Chris Wagner doghouse scenario, the Sean Crowley doghouse scenario. I didn't think he was playing that bad before he started getting scratched, but you never know, right? We're not the coach.
Yeah, exactly. Or medical staff for that matter.
Yeah.
But I do want to circle back a little bit on Trent Frederick. And you brought up a really good point about him being one of the players that played every game up to the time that he had to be sit. But let's put that time frame into perspective, okay? Let's think about the game he started as his professional career to when it stopped. And that gap right there, I want to concentrate on the beginning to the end. And his game, when you said he was an absolute menace, which this Boston Bruins team needed. You needed somebody else to get under the skin. Marchand can't be the only nose-face killer that does that in the league or on this Boston Bruins team. It's got to be by committee, but you also have to have the strength. And we know Trent Frederick can just drop the gloves and just waffle somebody's face.
Yeah, he's not afraid.
No, he's not afraid. But here's the thing: I'm under the impression that the Bruins and management saw him at his best to start his career, but then was just like, as he's running around, chirping, things are coming on the mic and so on, which is awesome, by the way. The NHL should sell that audio because I would completely subscribe to it.
Oh yeah.
Obviously bleep out the shit that's really bad.
Yeah,
I want to hear
exactly.
I want to hear the Sean Thornton, like, hey, I'll let you pick what hand I beat the fuck out of you with. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of shit I want to hear. But do you have a feeling anywhere in your body that Bruce Cassidy and management said, dude, you need to tone it down? And maybe we're seeing Trent Frederick's toned down version of his style of hockey not jive with what he really wants to do.
He got that penalty. I don't know exactly what game it is, but it cost the Bruins a very valuable goal, I'm pretty sure. And I think he wasn't benched, but he definitely took a couple shifts. The fourth line on itself didn't really get awarded a couple shifts after that. Sorry. I do think Bruce Cassidy told him to reel it back a little bit. I think Bruce Cassidy loves him though too, because he's always praised him. But I do think, like Cassidy said, there's going to be learning curves with him. He has to find that fine line that Marchand used to toe every so often. Like you said about Marshy can't be the only guy. Like you got Nick Ritchie. He can do the job, but he doesn't seem like the biggest under the skin kind of guy. He seems like the type of guy that's going to come in and, I didn't like what you just did there. I'm going to show you my fist real quick. We saw it the other night when he beat up on, who was it, Lawton?
Yeah.
Or no, sorry. Yeah.
No.
So,
wait a minute.
no, it was Hathaway, sorry.
Yeah.
Hathaway. Yeah, so it's tough to say, but it's just gonna help, I think, his trajectory up into what Bruce Cassidy wants him to do. I think Bruce Cassidy is holding his cards really tight with this one. I think he knows he's gonna have Frederick for a very long time. Whether he's still, obviously, hopefully he's still there, like Cassidy, but I think he's telling him, okay, let's just ease into this. You showed everyone in the league who you are. They know if they want to come looking for you, and I say it's okay, it's okay. But until then, you just calm down a little bit because we don't need you costing us hockey games. Because we saw it happen to Ritchie in the playoffs, and I know it wasn't 100% his fault. It was a tough play, but Bruce Cassidy was upset, and you could tell he was upset. And he doesn't like bad penalties. You saw Lizogne get sit a couple games ago after his bad penalty. So I think he definitely has tightened the leash a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we move on to the next topic, in about 10 minutes before we take our hour break and hear from Bruce Sullivan from Boston Sports and Music Memorabilia, let's hit on the recent goaltending talks. We've had a lot of different goaltenders due to injury and COVID-related issues, but we've seen some really good goaltending from the young core, and Jeremy Swayman and Dan Vladar have really shown Bruins fans, Bruins Nation, Bruins management what's to come of the future from these guys. But there's a lot of people that I call them, and I don't mean to name call or anything like that, but they're the shiny new toy group or crew, whatever. And
The
they see,
Barracudas.
yeah, they see something so. That's a great analogy. I really like that.
Yeah.
You Barracuda.
Yeah. So then you're not saying something bad about them, right? Or you're not like
Exactly.
calling them a name.
Well, at least
Yeah.
at that point, I could see him on Twitter going, "What?"
Yeah, exactly.
So like put him in a mental pretzel for a little bit.
Yeah.
That was a good. But they see how Jeremy Swayman's playing and his confidence. He's smiling all the time. His character is just unbelievable in press conferences. You see how relaxed and I just need to do a job. I want to stop every puck. All they want to do is win for the team from Dan Vladar. These are all great things that we're seeing. But man, this fan base has to pump the brakes on. Let's just wipe away our thoughts of Yaroslav Halak and Tuukka Rask and the experience that those guys have and what they've done as a 1A, 1B in this league in the past 3 years and so on. I'm not saying that they were Jennings Trophy winners every year, Vezina Trophy winners every year, but they were always up there in the rankings, especially for the Jennings anyway. It's a team thing, but where do you stand with this? Are you one of those types of people? I know probably not, but are you one of those types of people that just says, let's ride the hot hand, let's ride the kids and see what we have? Or are you a patient guy?
Well, I'm not a trade Tuukka Rask guy, that's for sure. Because I saw you liked RA from Spit and Chicklets tweet today, the picture. 2 articles in a row, exact same picture, exact same headline. It's tough to watch because Tuukka Rask, one of my favorite players of all time. I love the guy, and it's I like you said, the Barracuda theory. Everyone just sees the shiny new thing, but we have to remember they're 22 and 23-year-old kids. We saw what happened with Carter Hart, and I am not about to ruin these kids, or not ruin, but hinder their development on Bruins fans on Twitter wanting the shiny new thing we're talking about. For me, yes, it definitely puts questions up about Halak for next year, for sure. I understand it's a business and we're playing a cap, but these guys that, like you said, Tuukka and Halak have been unbelievable for us. When Tuukka went down, I don't know if it was last year, a couple years ago, Halak, he just stepped right up. He looked like that guy that we played against when he was in the Montreal Canadiens. Like, he looked like that guy from St. Louis. So for me, it's make sure Tuukka's okay. First of all, make sure he gets healthy. And then from there, if Halak got traded today, I'd definitely shake my head. Or if he got traded tomorrow before the deadline, I'd definitely shake my head. So I definitely am happy that we have this opportunity with these prospects in front of us, but in no way, shape, or form am I shaking up our goalie situation unless it's just to save money with the Halak thing, and they think genuinely Vladdy or Swayman are as ready to be a backup goaltender in the NHL. And
Yeah, I'm
have
not
that.
Oh.
No, just and have that.
Right. I'm sorry. I keep freaking.
No, problem.
It brings me back to a night on national television. It was NBC game. Bob McKenzie mentioned, which stunned fans actually. And this was also a time when Tuukka Rask was healthy, and so was Yaroslav Halak, non-COVID issues, and so on. That Bob McKenzie came out and said that the Boston Bruins are interested in entertaining conversations with Yaroslav Halak and Tuukka Rask on retaining both of them for minimal contracts. And those talks were supposed to happen in season. this year, as both of them are on expiring contracts. So I was comfortable with that, but also that told me right then and there, and regardless of what Jeremy Swayman and Dan Vladar were doing down in Providence, which have been outstanding things, not only at the NHL level, but down in the development system with head coach Jay Leach, that the management is not comfortable with moving on to rookies that are making less than probably $1.7 million a year. Cap friendly, absolutely. You can address certain needs, but do you have that trust in two goaltenders doing a tandem, doing 41-41? That to me read that they aren't ready for at least another year, and they're going to insert them, accordingly. Let's have a vet and maybe a younger backup, but not two at the same time like many fans want. So now it's different. Tuukka Rask is suffering from something that's it sucks. It really does. But now we have to think about him. He's an aging veteran. He is a Boston Bruins player that has set records in this organization, and he is legitimately, regardless of the cup that was won in 2011 as a backup, he is the best goaltender that this organization has seen in the past. Numbers don't lie, folks. No. But the injury, what do you think? I mean, if you bring him on for minimal term, he's got to come down off of that $7 million. I don't think they'll offer him that. I think the Bruins will offer him $4 million. If he takes it, he takes it. If he doesn't, he doesn't. That's fine. But the injury thing keeps me thinking about the risk versus reward. I mean, the reward could be good because Tuukka's a very experienced goaltender. He's been in the playoffs. He's been in the Cup Finals. But the injuries and the future and so on just makes me kind of think. So before we talk about the insertion of these young goaltenders, what are your thoughts on possibly bringing back Rask and Halak, and thoughts on maybe that the organization isn't so high on the younger kids coming into onto the team quite yet?
Yeah, well, I definitely want to see Rask come back, and for something that you mentioned before, he'd be a great veteran to help mold these kids into what he is. To be honest, I see a lot of Rask in Swayman. His play, the way he moves around the crease, he's kind of got that Tuukka Rask, Tim Thomas style of swagger to him, where he's not afraid to be aggressive. You hear Jack Edwards over and over on the broadcast talking about how aggressive he is off the blue line. So I would like to see Tuukka, at the very least, Halak, if not Tuukka, come back and help these kids, right? Like you said, I'm not convinced in management in any way, shape, or form is looking at going with two young goalies next year, especially with Cam Neely and Donnie. Like they don't strike me as the type of guys to put a lot of trust in that, especially with holding on to a lot of the core that they have, that they inherited from GMs before, right? Yeah. So for me, I would like to see definitely way lower AAV for Tuukka, but I would like to see him come back. The big question is, you saw the articles last year in the summer. He said he's not going to play for anybody but the Boston Bruins. So does that mean he retires if he does? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's a big question. The back thing, he's got a bad back. He's had a bad back for a while. It's tough to watch, but I would definitely love to see him come back. I wouldn't put that out of the question at all.
And to the fans out there listening, I'm not calling you out or anything like that, but the ones that say that Tuukka's a great goalie and he's done a fantastic job for this organization, but when he comes back healthy, and obviously it's not going to be before the trade deadline, which is tomorrow at noon, or is it 3:00?
It's at 2:55, I think.
Oh, really? That's a strange one. Go figure. At least it's COVID pandemic times. You can't even round it off to it.
I know, right? I saw TSN post an image yesterday about their streaming. It said till 2:45 or 2:55. Sorry, I thought it was very weird, but
yeah. So, with that being said, I don't think it's going to happen. A lot of them saying, well, why don't we trade him? Because he's got high value right now. We could get something back before he walks away as his contract expires. But with his career and everything that he's done at this point, that's the type of guy that if he wants to go or finish his career here and we don't get anything for him, that's fine. I'm kind of on the same board with David Krejci too. When a lot of people claim that we need to trade Krejci now because if he walks, we don't get anything for him. And you also can go back to the Torrey Krug thing. That was just a shitstorm of what the fuck, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like you had a conversation with him, a verbal, I heard, and offering him a deal. They both said, yep, okay. But then a year later, you go back to the table and management says that offer is no longer available, which was a main reason why Krug was so upset and walked away and signed with the St. Louis Blues. So
yeah, no, definitely, I agree with that. It was hard to watch Krug walk away, but management had different. Like I'm pretty sure Don Sweeney said last year, if we don't re-sign Krug, well then that is our rental, and that's how you kind of have to look at it with Krejci too. If we don't re-sign him, then he's a rental for us, and we just got a free rental. So it would suck, but like you said, the amount that they've given the organization, Stanley Cup winners, I know that asterisks with Tuukka, but still Stanley Cup winners, gave our franchise a culture that, we're seeing now today, and it's not going to go away. It's stuck with the Bruins.
Yeah, just like that, stuck with me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, so that was my gift to myself on June 15th, June 16th. I was in the tattoo parlor, like, do it. It's like, that's going to cost, just do it.
Yeah, no questions, do it.
All right, so what we're going to do is going to take a quick break right now. We're going to hear from the awesome Bruce Sullivan, and he is from Boston Sports and Music Memorabilia, and he is a fantastic person that gives us all these awesome deals. Signed Andy Moog picture, 8x10, but also these hand-signed jerseys every month that we give away. Check out the information that you're going to see in a little while. Check out his Facebook group. Give him a follow. Send him an email. Ask him what he has in his inventory. The guy has sit-downs with Phil Esposito, Brad Park, Johnny Busick. All of them have been sat down in his private signings and so on. So it's all legit stuff, and I wouldn't deal with them if it wasn't legit. So we'll hear from Bruce right now, and we'll come back and much awaited 2021 NHL Trade Deadline talk from my man Brett over here. We're going to get right into it, so we'll be right back.
Hey Bruins fans, this is Bruce from Boston Sports and Music Memorabilia with your black and gold memorabilia moment of the week. Hall of Famer month continues with jerseys, photos, and pucks from the greatest players of all time. First up, Bobby Orr, your choice of autographed pucks. Get his rookie year puck or the flying goal, $149. Or score with the ultimate Orr, 28x30 special edition shadow box autograph photo display. It's got the puck, it's got suede matting, and it's yours on sale this month for just $379. Or take home this 22x26 inch The Goal special edition for just $279. How about Brad Park from our February private signing? Score with this Brad Park autographed puck for just $35, or this black style jersey for just $159 delivered. We've got an autographed 11x14 photo display for $55, or grab this special edition 15x20 for just $89. Or you can take home autographed jerseys by Cheevers, Coyle, Sanderson, Busick, or O'Reilly for just $89. For more information on our dozens of Bruins hand-signed pieces, and for your chance to win free memorabilia each week, check us out at our Facebook page, Boston Sports and Music Memorabilia, or email me directly at bostonsportsandmusic@gmail.com. And be sure to check in each week right here to the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. Let's go!
What's up, Bruins fans? We are back. We just heard from the awesome Bruce Sullivan from the Boston Sports and Music Memorabilia. Back here with my friend Brett Howard, and he is at the Beehive Pod. The Beehive Pod. He changed it from what was it before?
It was the Bear Tracks, but then I realized the Bruins already had a video series called the Bear Tracks, so I didn't want to. I was like, I'll come up with something else. And I thought the Beehive was good, right? where all the guys came from.
Yeah, and then you freaking put pod on it. So now it's going to be a podcast on the blackandgoldhockey.com podcast network. So we're thrilled to have you aboard the Black and Gold Productions sports media company team, my friend.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah. All right. So let's get right into it. It is the trade deadline, and let's come in the second hour hot. I got some ideas to float around. We've picked through Twitter and noticed some names. So we made a list. So this is where my friend Brett is going to go off in a little bit. And I hope to chime in a little bit on some wisdom, maybe. We'll know. Who knows about that? But to see what he thoughts on some of these guys that have an idea before the trade deadline actually happens. So go for it, bud.
Well, first and foremost, the biggest one that everyone's been talking about, and the biggest one the Bruins is linked to, is Taylor Hall. The question is, with his point production this year, and we need scoring very badly, and he hasn't been scoring in Buffalo. I know it's Buffalo; they have a tough team this year. They had 18 games in a row losing streak, but his numbers this year I got right here: 2 goals, 17 assists for 19 points in 37th game. Not great, but he's still getting out there. He's got a really bad plus minus, but so does everybody on Buffalo. My biggest thing to look at is last year he put up 22 goals, 28 assists for 50 points in 69 games played. He's a 4-time 20 goal scorer. I'm starting to think for the right package and the right pieces, I don't want to give up a first-round pick for a rental this year. That's not something I want to do, especially with the type of year it is. If you're giving up a first-round pick, you best be getting somebody with turn. And now the question is, so what does a Hall extension look like? 4x4, 4x5. I definitely don't want to see it past that in any way, shape, or form, because he's putting up Coyle numbers this year, right? And we already have a guy we're paying 5.25 to put up those numbers on a third line. So if he's gonna come in and inject into this lineup, we need the Hall that played for Arizona last year. He turned it on when he had the tools around him. And I think a Pasternak, Krejci, Hall line, like how much more, the skill is there, whether or not they mesh good or what. Yeah, that's the question that everyone has. Sticking with Buffalo, this one is very interesting to me, and I don't know. I want your input on this one, Mark. Sam Reinhart, I said it to you on the live stream as well. He's got a year left at an accumulated cap hit, or just the rest of this year, for $4 million. He was a second overall pick in 2014. He's only 25 years old, and he goes into RFA in the summer. I don't know if there's arbitration rights, but listening to Biz, who is friends with him on Spit and Chicklets, always talks about how undervalued he is in that Buffalo organization. And he talks about how he keeps getting these show me deals when in the past he's clearly shown that he can put up the numbers. Like last year, he put up 50 points in 69 games on a tough Buffalo team to watch. He's a 4-time 20 goal scorer. He could put the puck in the net. He scored on us a couple weeks ago. But I was just curious, Mark, what you think about him going into the summer being an RFA. Are you willing to give up an Anders Bjork and a conditional first to make sure, if he gets a certain amount of goals in the playoffs, or maybe strictly point-driven conditional first-round pick?
Yeah, he is arbitration rights available.
He does? Okay.
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
He's got the hammer.
So that is kind of scary.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Reinhardt first, young player, like you mentioned. Definitely has a skill. If it could work out and you're not paying a Hall, and that was a pun. HUL, AUL. If you're not, forcing the hand that you're going to be like taking away from the Boston Bruins future, I would do Reinhardt because his age and he does have a year of term, which I'm a huge fan of when making a deal. It's really tough. Like Bruins were all in on not all in. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Bruins were rumored to be in on Kyle Palmieri.
Yep.
He had an expiring year contract. My theory is, and this Boston Bruins team and the way that Don Sweeney negotiates and always tries to get everybody down, like this player is making that this is what we do to create a culture here. I think that if Palmieri was here and Don Sweeney was trying to do that to him, and then expectations weren't made, like even a playoff year or a first round exit, that a type of a player like Palmieri could turn around and say, Don, I don't like it here, and go somewhere else. So now you paid up a first round draft pick and an asset for somebody that walked away. I like the idea of having the term, the 1 year to just sit down with a player like Reinhart that's young and talented and so on, and could really help out that secondary scoring in the future for this Boston Bruins team. Back to Hall, it's still a no rental thing. And for me, if he does want to sign an extension, then I'm up for it. But still, what are we giving up to get it? I mean, I'd definitely give a second round pick. But also we do have to think about, and I keep forgetting to bring it up lately, is that the scouting has been subpar this year, because the fact is that scouts can't go into certain areas of the North America because of COVID and so on. And they've hired other people to go and do their work for them, or they're only watching on hockey TV subscription, and where the play is always following the puck, and you're not seeing anything else. You're not seeing character stuff that you would in a rink. So it's such a gamble this year if you're going to pick somebody in the first round, and if they actually are projected to where they are selected at or not. It's going to be weird. But for somebody like Hall that potentially could turn around and get a spark and so on, this year I wouldn't be mad if they gave up that first round pick, but only if he can be re-signed and not a rental situation.
And that's the thing too. Like, one thing that I keep thinking about, and obviously we're not the GMs and we don't know what Donnie Sweeney's thinking, but an extension doesn't have to be 5x5 or 4x5. It can be a 2-year extension, and I'm still okay with that. Just for this window that we have right now. He's not the youngest player. He's not the oldest. He's right in the middle, right? Like, he's still in his prime. He still has time left to turn it around if he can. And you're telling me a former MVP playing on a line with a superstar like Pastrnak, well, then you can start going into the aspect of, what if it rejuvenates Pastrnak? And what if Pastrnak starts seeing passes? And, you got that internal battle of, well, you got an MVP coming in here that put up 39 or 40 goals that 1 year. Well, I was that guy last year, right?
Yep.
So maybe it puts a spark under Pasternak's ass. Maybe you can pull Smith down, put Pasta back up. Then you got even Smith, Hall, and Krejci. I'm not mad at that line.
No, that's one thing to drool at, actually.
Yeah. And especially, like, you see Smith driving the play to the middle. I love it. He's one of the only guys on our team other than Marchand that does that. He thrives on pushing his big body through. You can see in front of the net, his hand-eye coordination on watching pucks and rebounds come off the goalie is so impressive. I really enjoyed watching it this year.
Absolutely. How about the rest of the list? I'm curious about some of the we've heard Don Sweeney, we've heard John Ferguson Jr. spending a lot of time out west, predominantly in the Anaheim, Los Angeles area. But with that Western type of conference, he could have been there for several different reasons to try to catch several different teams coming through that general area, much like Arizona and the connections to Connor Garland or rumored connection, or anybody else. But you have one up here, or a couple actually, with Iafallo, Brown, and Raquel.
Yep.
So talk about some of those players.
So Raquel is very interesting to me, because when they sent the pick in Bacchus and got Kasha coming back the other way, it was rumored that Raquel was going to be that player coming back, but it didn't happen for whatever reason. We got what we got. Now I'm starting to think, well, is this Sweeney's second go at what he missed last year, or what he couldn't put together for last year? Again, a guy with no term. I would like to see somebody come back with an extension. Where you mentioned something earlier about how this team right now is not a Stanley Cup team. So if that's the case, I want somebody coming back that's going to build towards what we have left, and hopefully they can help the transition from the Bergeron era to the McAvoy-Pastrnak era. They can be those little pieces that So we're not a complete rebuild team, or we don't have to pull an Ottawa and just sell everything and be bad for 5 years. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. We all don't know the future, but I really like Rakell's numbers this year. He's got 22 points, 37 games. Last year, he had 42 points in 65 games. He's a 3-time 20-goal scorer. He can put the puck in the net. He's energetic. I'm pretty sure he's Czech as well, which is a big thing for Sweeney. He loves the Czech guys. So for me, it's a no-brainer if you can get an extension. I think, as like I said with Reinhart, he's young, can put the puck in the net. He'd be a good addition on the second line. He pretty much would be the replacement for Kasha. And then that comes in, okay, do we need Kasha? Do we need to retain him? As sad of a story that is, it's something that you need to look at. If we can get a guy extended and be the guy he was supposed to be, well, he's expendable at that point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Good points.
With Dustin Brown and Iafallo, Dustin Brown and Iafallo for me are very interesting because they're middle six guys at this point in their career, especially on this Bruins roster. I don't know if giving up picks and prospects for Iafallo is the best idea. He also is in contract negotiations. I've also heard LA is trying to re-sign him. So it might not even be an option at that point. It's just somebody who is their contract's coming up, and that's just what happens in the NHL, the speculation. You've seen a lot of guys that don't go anywhere and that end up re-signing, maybe even in the offseason. LA has no pressure. They have so much cap flexibility. They have these great prospects coming up. That one to me is going to be a last hour one if they are picked up, Dustin Brown or Iafallo. I like Dustin Brown a little more, especially beside Coyle. I think that'd be really good. He can push that play. Maybe even with Krejci, he pushes the play, like I said, from the outside to the middle, and that's something we've been lacking this year. Like Coyle was that guy last year, and he hasn't been.
And he's got some jam too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that he'd be that Lucic or why is it losing my freaking mind?
Oh, Horton.
Yeah, well, it won't be the Lucic and Horton thing for a type of player like Krejci, but it's a pretty comparable for nuisance that he can get under your skin, and obviously he's having. I'm not just gonna say this is like career year because of the condensed season or anything like that, but he's having a solid season.
Yeah, 25 points, 38 games for a guy. He got apparently LA came at him in the summer. I heard this on a podcast, and they told him that he needs to, get more in shape and figure his game out a little better. And I guess he came in like 30 pounds lighter than normal. He worked on skating all the offseason because that's a big thing in the LA organization. They draft fast players. They like fast players. There was a different point when he was drafted and he was brought in, like the cups they won, forever they're going to be grateful for that. But that was a different team. That was a slow team. That it was very documented that LA won that cup, or that first one when they came in on the 8th seed. They were a very slow team, but they were hard to play against. And like you just said, he brings that grit. Richie can't do it every night. He needs to score goals. He's a two-dimensional player. He's not the fastest, yes, but he complements Krejci very well. So if you can get another guy like Dustin in there, depending on where he interjects in the lineup, I see it as a good fit. I just don't want to give up a lot for it.
Yeah, and Brett Ritchie and what a turnaround this season has seen from last year. I was completely crapping on the guy last year, but given some time, I'm starting to eat crow big time. But you cannot deny the guy's net front presence either. No. He's solid in front of the net. Always, not always there, but most of the time he's there to create havoc for the goaltender, create a lane for a shooter coming from the point, but also, be there to be that scrappy, rebound guy that just wants to just power it into the back of the twine. So I like Richie's game this year.
Yeah, his vision. That's one thing I've noticed in front of that. His vision has picked up a lot better. Last year he was getting hit by pucks left and right. I think he needed time to work with those power play guys, especially on learning their tricks and quirks. Like, Marchand and Bergeron, they have their special plays that are unspoken of. Yeah, right. So I think I remember Pasta was hitting him in the playoffs. Like, I think he hit him like 8 times last year. I was counting because I was like, what's going on? It was tough to watch, but I'm glad he's picked it up this year. One guy that you asked me about before we came on was Mikhail Granlin. I like the move if it's a conditional third, a conditional fourth, a depth piece. But we also have those depth pieces within our organization. It's just whether or not Bruce Cassidy and Don feel like they want to put the trust in them. Because we keep hearing rumblings that Don is all in. No matter what, everything is in this year. Everything's in play, which it can be scary or it could end up working out in the end. That's it. So for me, I wouldn't mind Granlin, but I don't know if the Bruins are pursuing him as much as they were, seeing as Nashville. That's just what I read. Sorry, because Nashville has been on a heater lately.
Yeah, and which puts one player that you have on your list is Lindholm. When Nashville wasn't playing very good, his name was being brought up in a lot of trade talks, especially when it's coming towards the trade deadline and so on. And obviously, it'll gravitate to the Bruins because we need all kinds of defensemen right now. But at the moment, it was more or less we need a left D. And and his name got brought up. But those guys are playing very well. They're certainly coming up the standings. So I'm not sure if he's going to be somebody to be traded. But the other one is Merrill. I don't have a ton of information on Merrill, but I know that
he got dealt.
Yeah.
So
he went from Detroit to Montreal, right?
Yeah.
So he's going to go through a 5-day quarantine process, border crossing. So I'm not too sure on Merrill. I know that somebody put out on Twitter that he's like a kind of a McQuaid type of player. Not overly offensive, but big and shutdown-ish. Somebody compared him to Brandon Carlo, kind of, sort of. So that would have been a good one, but it is what it is.
A big trend I'm noticing with the rumors and the players that I've laid out and was researching today, there's a lot of pairs. Like it almost looks like Sweeney's looking to grab a forward and a defense in one trade off one team. He's the link to the Raquel thing, the Lindholm, and then I saw Manson as we were about to come on as well, who are all great players, but it's the package coming back the other way, right? If you're going to get a borderline top 4 defenseman and a stapled in top 6 forward, it's going to cost you, especially in today's day and age. And I know Bruce Cassidy and I think it's Bob Murray of Anaheim, they have a good relationship. They trade a lot together.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be surprised at all if you see like McDermott. He was linked to the Dustin Brown talks. McDermott's also a guy like that. McQuaid. He doesn't put up the most numbers, but I've heard he's like a better version of Tenorti. So to me, it is all going to come down on if they can get that special deal they want, the 2 guys at one. If they can't, you're going to see a lot of scrambling at the trade deadline, or those like on the fly rumors that we saw in the previous years with Don Sweeney.
Well, we saw it recently, even up towards this week with New Jersey before Paul Murray got dealt. It was a rumor the Don Sweeney and Bruins were looking at him and Dmitry Kulikov, both 30-year-old players coming at the end of expiring contracts. Obviously, Paul Murray got a deal done. And, we didn't bring that up in a topic, but going back to Paul Murray, I want to say that this was like known so long ago. Like we heard this from Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick that, he's from the Metro New York area, New Jersey, Long Island, not that far away. His family's living right there. It just made a ton of sense, and it actually came to fruition. So,
and they made the point on 31 Thoughts that he wouldn't even have to move. He could live where he was living already, and that's a big, especially in this year, that's a big thing. He, like you said, he's got a family, so I personally thought that was happening no matter what, especially with Lou Lamoriello and his connection to the New Jersey Devils.
Yep.
It seemed like a no-brainer to me, and I wouldn't have wanted to give that up for Paul Murray and Zajac, to be honest. It wasn't a lot, but that first round pick and 2 prospects, they weren't the best prospects, but still, that's a lot to give up for a couple, or 18 games and then playoffs.
Yep.
It's a lot to give up. There's one that I saw before we came on. It just the waiver wire
Is it
dropped.
Mete?
Yes.
Yeah. Explain that.
The thing I watched him in London. He was a London Knight, so I watched him growing up. He's great. He's more of a defensive version of Grizzly. That's how I look at it personally. His numbers this year are three points in 14 games. Not great, but I saw his trend of defensive play is going up and his offensive is going down. One thing is we know Claude doesn't really trust people that he sees aren't his fit of player. So I don't think he was utilized very well in the Montreal system. I wonder what that would look like coming in being on a second pairing or third pairing in an organization like the Bruins, where we're very the development of our defensemen especially is one of our strong suits, if you will. So to me, I didn't see the cap hit. I just wrote that up really quick before we got on because I saw it on Twitter. But I wouldn't be surprised if Sweeney does it, seeing that he wouldn't have to give up any assets for anybody. But
didn't he get picked up by somebody?
Did he?
I think he did. Is it Mete?
Yeah, Mete.
I thought I saw something. They placed on waivers. That was 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe it was just on waivers.
It was
somebody
just
picked them up. All right.
Yeah, so we already have a lot of small defensemen, and I know Boston Bruins fans aren't the biggest on smaller guys. It's more of a prove yourself kind of thing. You've seen it with Marchand and Krug in the past, but I wouldn't be surprised if and I'm saying if Sweeney did pull the trigger and it ended up working out in the end. Because like I said, he's in a system that he wasn't very utilized. He's now at a coaching change where that guy doesn't seem like Ducharme. Sorry, he doesn't seem like he has much trust in him either. Only playing 14 games, being put on the waiver wire. It's definitely something to look into. I thought it was very interesting just because I had watched him for like the 4 years he was in London, and I always liked his play. He played on that Matthew Tkachuk team. It was a good team, the Max Domi team. They played really well. They almost won a Memorial Cup, so he knows how to win. That's for sure.
Awesome. All right, are we done with the trade talk?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah,
right.
That was my last guy.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for all the information you gathered. I really appreciate that.
Oh yeah.
Let's blast through these because we're approaching I think we got about a half an hour to go. So
yeah,
just want to blow through these. I forgot where I moved. Okay. Here we go. Here's another topic for some interest. Could one or both high-ranking Boston Bruins management members, Cam Neely or Don Sweeney, be on the hot seat moving forward? The 2021 trade deadline will dictate a lot if the organization and ownership are giving them constraints to move, or if they're not, they'd be in the puppeteer and saying no, make a more lateral move. Who knows? Upcoming playoff success, will that their hot seat narrative dictate on postseason if they make it or not, and how far they go, and also after next season, because I kind of believe that maybe ownership says, let's not talk about hot seat right now. Let's talk about hot seat after we get back to normalcy and we get back to an 82-game schedule where everybody's traveling and doing the same thing. If the team fails, then we'll possibly revise, looking at subtractions and incoming additions. So, thoughts on hot seat talk, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it's a complete issue right now. I don't think they're exactly on the hot seat. Like we said, we're going to see what happens with the trade deadline. But I'm with you on this. I don't see it being a complete hot seat problem, I guess, until what we see what the moves do this offseason and how the playoffs go this year. I know it's a weird year, and I don't count on Bruins management making a very vulnerable decision like that in this trying times, because then you got to remember they got to spend more money to get another GM, right? That's a big thing in this. You've heard it all year this year about coach firings and GM firings. That's it's one of the biggest topics.
The,
is that
the good thing, my friend, is that's not a capable number.
yeah, true, yeah. So I don't see it being a problem this year. I see it being more of a problem after next season, after a full 82 games, fans back in the building. I hope like that is gonna determine whether or not Sweeney he won GM of the year. So I just don't see it happening anytime soon.
If he's being recognized by the league and I believe the writers vote on that.
I'm pretty sure he's an assistant GM of Team Canada coming up.
Yes.
Or he's got help in that. So like I personally don't see it. But like you never know. This trade deadline could be disastrous. We all could go to worst and then maybe, but I just don't see them making a vulnerable decision like that right now.
I almost have a feeling that they're going to wait a full season next year. Like, his drafting's been skeptical. I think his past is going to start, and Cam Neely's past. I'm going to put them both in here because I'm focusing the blame on both of them. And that is just, and I'm going on that without a ton of information on what goes on above Neely and Sweeney and so on. So they might just be the puppets. And ownership is the puppeteers, but it's just the fact is that his past and coming up to this year, it's a flat cap, couple of years. I mean, I heard Merrick and Friedman talk about 3 to 5 years. This could be a flat cap. Yeah. All this is going to pay heavy dividends on their future and building another winner. So I want to say, let's see what happens after next season. Sweeney, Neely, and so on are going to have upwards of $30 million in cap space. I know we're going to have to address Carlo and McAvoy and all this in the future. There's a lot of avenues coming at you at once, but you can address several needs. You can address those two forwards if you have to make trade deadline trades prior to the draft, or add in free agency. I know that the free agent list is pretty thin this year and so on, but I want to see what they do then with a ton of cap space and so on. And if they don't make the playoffs in 21-22, boom, then you make your changes. You go out and get my boy Mike Fuda. Get that guy a damn job.
Yeah.
We were talking about LA earlier with and how they did. I mean, that guy worked under the mastermind, and I don't care what people say about Dean Lombardi. I thought he was a fantastic GM.
Yeah,
and having Fuda right under him. And he was the real mastermind of the draft and picking players and so on. Right out of Ontario, good freaking Ontario guy. I want to see him more or less. I say, as we move forward and we're talking about hot seat and who should come in and so on. If somebody gets fired, I don't want to be a former player. I really don't want to be a former player and like a buddy and like, you did this for me. Thank you so much. We have connections here. I want somebody else with a fresh opinion. Something that a system that they could work on, a system that casts. And if we get a new GM, we're probably going to get a new coach. So anyway, that's how it goes. Yeah. So, I don't know.
One thing you mentioned there that I could see being very, I don't know. With Don Sweeney's signings and his extensions, he's gotten a lot of praise from the media being able to keep the culture of take less to win more. You hear about it on a lot of different podcasts, how Boston's one of the best teams at doing that. And with $30 million, I think management is going to want to see what he can do. Like I said, the Coyle extension, it looked great last year. It's, I'm not going to bank too much on this year because of the weird year or whatever. But the McAvoy re-signing, the Carlo re-signing, when he got Pasternak signed, like, those are all good tickets. He did a really good job. Like Pasternak last year looked like he's on one of the best contracts in the NHL. You got Brad Marchand making under $7 million a year. So I wouldn't be surprised if they let him take the reins here. I know his drafting's been spotty, but we could get lucky this year. He could just shoot in the barrel, and we could. Elliot and Merrick were talking about how you're going to see a lot of great talent taken in this draft in later rounds, just because there's not enough. Scouting being done of these prospects. Yeah,
very true. All right. I had something I was going to say and I totally forgot, but that happens a lot in old age. Don't get old, my friend.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on, and this is a popular topic now on Twitter because Twitter can be a dumpster fire sometimes. Is it time to panic? Is it time to hit the panic button on this Boston Bruins organization? Some in the fan base seem to think blowing everything up and starting fresh is the way to go. What are your thoughts, sir?
I think that the management and the Bruins organization has way too much loyalty to Bergeron, Tuukka, Krejci, the core that we have. You've seen it in the years. They kept these guys over the other guys for a reason. They wanted to rebuild on the fly. They knew these guys still had it. You got Elliot Friedman talking about how Don Sweeney, his loyalty to these guys, and that he doesn't see anytime soon. He says as long as Bergeron and Tuukka are good to go, they're going for it every year. It's the same thing as the Crosby-Malkin dynamic. You got to try with the guys that you have until they can't do it anymore. And we got a cup, and if that means, our prospect pool is going to be a little thin for a couple of years, like, that's just something we might have to deal with as a fan base. I know it's going to be really tough for some people, but in my personal opinion, I don't see blowing it up working or helping us in any way right now. Yeah, our prospect pool is thin. Our drafting isn't superb, but it's just something we're going to have to deal with. We have two great goalie prospects. Eventually, you're going to get the question, which one are they going to keep, right? So there's an asset right there that you have to trade. I'm not saying I want to see it happen, but it happens a lot in the NHL with goalie, the AB dynamic.
Yeah, so let's just transfer right into this next one real quick, okay? Is the prospect pool too thin? I believe so. I believe that we've seen so many prospects come in and out of a revolving door, call-ups, steady game time, much like Frederick and so on, and Studnicka, which is just up and down. But since 2015, a lot of those prospects that were taking in that 7-round draft, but 10 selections were made. A lot of them didn't pan out. A lot of them were missed on, and we understand that. People make fumbles. It's life. Mistakes happen. But now's the time. I mean, the trade deadline is tomorrow. I think that if you, I don't know, it's kind of pushing the panic button for myself, but I think that if you want to replenish, you do it accordingly. If you need to sell off somebody, which I don't think they're going to do, but you still need to replenish. So you need to keep that first-round pick if you need to. I know I'm contradicting myself from earlier, saying if you need it to address a certain need, but you also got to think about the future and the way that this Boston Bruins team is. And I know that in high rankings from the Athletic and the hockey writers and the hockey news and all that stuff, that the Boston Bruins don't have a highest ranked prospect pool in the league. And I'm going to talk about how good the Providence Bruins are, and some of those prospects in my Minor Pro update shortly after this. But, we do need to get more players involved into this prospect pool, because we're going to start seeing the Marchands come down to the end of their contracts, the Bergerons. Somebody's going to have to come up, and so on. So by blowing it up and going back to the topic above, you're going to be selling so much. You're going to be giving away the future so much that you're not going to really have anything to obtain for the next season, the 2021 season, in my opinion. So for me, even going back to the trade deadline talk we started at the top of the hour, I don't see why anybody would do it with what we have and build from there and not take steps back and give away everything. Like Cam Neely said so many years ago, we're sprinkling the league with talent all over. I could see that scenario happen if they went out and got that big ticket person, that one addition that probably won't sign here afterwards if he's a freaking a rental. But
yeah, and it is contradicting in ways, but like we said, we're willing to give that first pick up for a young, good, extended player. That's the type of move that this team, in my opinion, needs to make. Whether it's now or in the off season, because like we've been talking about, our prospect pool is thin. It's tough, but it's just something we're going to have to deal with for the time being. I saw a quote that a Lightning executive said, "We're in win now mode. Whatever we have to do to keep us winning, and rolling on with this quote unquote dynasty that they've had, that they're going to do it. And I honestly think Don Sweeney, after the past couple deadlines, I wouldn't be surprised if you see a big trade and extension. It wouldn't surprise me. I'd be happy about it if it's the right player, but it wouldn't surprise me. You know, he like we talked about the hot seat. He knows it's getting hotter and hotter every day.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's move on to my minor pro update. Real quick, the Providence Bruins played in 2 games last week. One was at the New England Sports Center, which is the temporary home of the Providence Bruins because the Providence Dunkin' Donuts Center is being used as a COVID makeshift hospital. So in the first period, the first goal of the game came from Edwards trail marks. He got his first goal from Nick Wolf and Tommy Cross. That was in the second period at 6:55. And trail marks is a new addition to the Providence Bruins team. He came from the University of Maine and is actually best friends with Jeremy Swayman. I think they were I think they were all him and Eric Shea, I believe, all roommates, and they do a YouTube channel.
No way.
Yeah, well, they did until two of them went out. So, it was pretty cool. But they're really close together and so on. And speaking of Swayman and trail marks, shout out to the University of Maine alum and particularly the Gendron family for the loss of Red, the head coach of the Maine Black Bears, passed away on Friday out playing golf.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was such a tough story. And Red was such a good guy. I didn't know him personally, but I really wanted to have an opportunity to get him on the stream and talk to him about trail marks and Swayman. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen. So, thoughts and prayers go out to the Gendron family and the UMaine. Anybody that he touched was just I'm just reading so much about how much of an impactful person he was. So he's going to be a tremendous loss.
Yeah, it was super sad to see. You never want to see that. Anytime we lose somebody in the hockey community, whether it has to do with our franchise or not, you hate to see it. These, like you said earlier, they're humans all playing the game we love, and I just wish his family the best, and it's just unfortunate.
Absolutely. Well said. Getting back to the game in the third period at the 17-minute mark, Brady Lyle, who's having an unbelievable season down at Providence in his rookie year out of the Ontario Hockey League with the Owen Sound attack, he gets a power play goal from Oscar Steen and Cooper Zek, and that wraps it up from the New England Sports Center as the Providence Bruins beat the Bridgeport Sound Tigers by the score of 2-1. Kyle Kaiser gets his win. He's been really good. I'll talk about how good he is, but in the previous 2 games, he's 2-0, but he took a suffering loss yesterday. But he stopped 26-27, and it was a pretty decent game. And I don't like this. I don't like the schedule because this American Hockey League schedule is so spread out. It's But basically, almost a week later, yesterday, at the XL Center in Hartford, Connecticut, the Providence Bruins traveled to play the Wolfpack, and they lost 6-1. This was not a good game. Kyle Kaiser was in the net, and he gave up all 6 goals. I felt bad for him. There is a new goaltender that I believe signed an ATO just to be with the team as a backup. Spagnoli, I think that's his name. I'm not sure. I did some research on this guy, and I went to eliteprospects.com, and they had him as a 36-year-old and so on. So I didn't really trust that. I mean, I might have been spelling the name wrong and so on, but whatever. He was in as a backup, but it was just a tough game. The Providence Bruins give up 3 power play goals on this night, and Anthony Greco was just running around, just causing havoc. Ty Ronning, he scored his 7th, 8th. And Tommy Cross was the only Providence Bruin to get on the board. He got his 3rd at the 10:40 mark of the 3rd period, assisted by Jakub Lauko and Cooper Zek. So it's a tough one. The next games, well, actually, I shouldn't talk about the next games because I don't have the schedule up. But right now, after 18 games played, the Providence Bruins are sitting comfortably in the Atlantic Division with a 13-4-1-0 record with 27 points. They unfortunately broke a 2-game winning streak, and they are 7-2-1 in the last 10. They are 10 points ahead of Hartford, who's in second place with 17 points. And Bridgeport they got 3 wins and 7 points. So there's a 20-point gap right there. Yeah. So we still don't know what's going to happen with the Calder Cup playoffs. I've been listening to Around the A podcast with David Foote and Patrick Williams very closely to get their inside stuff about if the league's going to entertain playoffs. I'm hearing it's not going to happen because they can't get fans in the stands. And if you can't do it now, nobody's making money nowhere, so why have it? So it's a bit unfortunate on that end.
Yeah, no, it sucks for these kids right now, man. Like, I really feel for them. Like, you hear some of the stories about how some of these teams that even NHL prospects didn't play for almost over a year. Like, that's crazy to think. For like, they were talking about Rasmus Dahlin and his like how he didn't end up playing for like a year, and how much that hurt him at the beginning of this season, and it really hurt the whole Buffalo lineup on a whole because he was supposed to be their guy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't have the schedule up, but that is my minor. Oh no, I do have something else. One more thing. Mark Diver tweeted out the other day that 2015 7th round draft pick Jack Becker. It sucks that he had to leave school. Yeah. So I got a ice cube. That's all good. He had to leave school because of the University of Michigan Wolverines. They withdrew from the national tournament. So that was his senior year. And it ultimately ended his NCAA career, which I wrote an article about it and the potential of him signing a pro contract, 1 year entry-level deal with the Boston Bruins, much like what Nick Wolf did coming out of the University of Minnesota Duluth. So, but Diver come out the other day and tweeted out that Becker has decided to stay in school, but not with Michigan. He is going to the state of Arizona Sun Devils to play an extra year, a 5th year of college hockey. And I know you can do this. I don't know the rules, but I've seen it done before. And this really doesn't change the aspect of property. And if Jack Becker is still property, he is. But I think his negotiating terms are more on the player and not on the owner of the team who selected him and so on. So I think it's really going to be up to him. I mean, ultimately it's up to him no matter what. But still, there's that property kind of thing that goes on that I still need to figure out. I'm constantly learning about the game of hockey. So
like in Canada, we didn't see NCAA hockey as much, right? But now that it's becoming more and more popular, I've definitely been doing a lot more research on it, just because the Bruins do select a lot of NCAA guys, and it like you see people coming from I saw that the BCHL in Canada. They want to be their own league. Like, they don't want to be an affiliate.
I've been following that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think.
I actually asked the league or the podcast or one of their article writers, is that going to disrupt any of the NCAA movement out of that league? Because the BCHL is a huge feeder league for the NCAA. So I guess if you want to go there and you get scouted by NCAA, that's a great spot. But it's also a place that you can go continue to develop. And like, if you're not going to get into the NCAA, you can also go into like the Dub, the O, and the Q. So who knows?
Yeah, I know it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Speaking of very interesting, we're wrapping this thing up. Let's talk about the upcoming games on the schedule as we finish this episode 223. And thank you so much again, Brett, for joining me. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, I've had a blast today.
That's awesome. Love having new people on. The upcoming week's Boston Bruins schedule is tonight against the Washington Capitals. Dan Vladar's getting the start. As we did mention, a very sketchy lineup, especially on the back end. The forwards are not changing, but the defensive core, like we said previously, is a little Lauzon and Ashan on the top pairing. Zboril, Kampfer on the second pairing, Tenori, Clifton on the third pairing, and obviously Vidar is in net today. So good luck to those guys. I really hope so. Obviously, I'm rooting for Jack Ashan because he's a really fast young forward that's going to continue to learn and do what he's got to do. But you got to be prepared because Washington is a heavy team. It's a very heavy team. They're going to come at you in layers, and it's going to be fast. So hopefully these guys are all ready. But also you have like a nice breather. But hopefully it's a game on Tuesday against the Buffalo Sabres that's not going to be played down to your opponent. We need to get in there and just start. Like get to a 4-0 lead. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake. But you have that buffer zone to work on it. You're not up against it against like this previous games against Buffalo. Good.
Yeah, I'm not as mad. Like I see a lot of people on Twitter upset Miller's got a scheduled day off. Like for me, I look at it as this Washington game is going to be a battle, right? Obviously, they have been all year, but coming in with more of a healthier lineup for Tuesday and Thursday makes me feel a lot better sitting these guys out today. On a back-to-back, and especially with the injuries that have been going on, like we just want Grizzly to stay healthy. It's been really tough for him since he's jumped up in this new role, but it's also this weird short season, no training camp. The body isn't as ready as it would be for an 82-game season. So I'm all in on the kid. I want the kids to show up tonight and just have an awesome game. That would make me feel so good, and would tell a lot of people on Twitter, right? Like just. Sometimes, the fans, they just get a little too much.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And after that Buffalo hopeful win, because Buffalo has been struggling lately, even though they've been on like a little bit of a winning streak and they're kind of awoken, probably to spark the interest of the trade folk as the Pagulas went down to the locker room and were like, all right, play for this short stretch. Before that, we didn't care. We're going for draft status. But anyway, the Boston Bruins do end up, and they round off the week's games playing Thursday and Friday night against the New York Islanders, a team that just got better with the additions of Travis Zajac, the additions of Kyle Palmieri, and the goaltending has been strong with that club. Defense has been decent, and the forwards have been good, minus Anders Lee, their captain leader. So it's another test. And the way this Boston Bruins team has matched up against this New York Islanders club is just very scary for me every time I go into it. Normally I'm calm, cool, collective. Hey, we're playing this. We'll roll the dice. We'll see what happens. But every time I see the Islanders coming up lately, it's a scary moment for me.
Well, and this is going to be those are going to be big games after the deadline, because whoever we get, depending on whether they need to quarantine or what they do, if they do go the Tenori route and find their own means of transportation so they don't have to quarantine or anything like that, this is going to be a really show me the money games against them, because like you said, we've been very scarce against them. If we want to be this playoff team that we think we are and we've proven to be in the past, I think those games are going to be a really big test to that.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to wrap it up. We do have to talk about our Patreon, and let me get back over here and like get this out of here and move this and that. And all kinds of good stuff going on here. Maybe not. I had it up in the banners. I'm still learning this freaking whole thing. So
no, it's all good.
We do have a Patreon account. Like I said before, please donate $1 to patreon.com/blackandgoldhockeypodcast. We record 4 to 6 episodes a month, so it's a very small investment. And you have an opportunity to get a hand-signed jersey we're going to be giving away right now, or a Rick Middleton hand-signed puck, or a Johnny Busick hand-signed puck, Hall of Fame 1981. So with that being said, we are going to give away that stuff right now. So with the Boston Bruins item, obviously it's going to be the Johnny Busick puck is going to my friend Kathy D. Frank. Congratulations, Kathy. Thank you so much for your contribution and sticking with us to help us out in our sports media company. And the nifty puck, the Rick Middleton puck, is going to my friend and former Black and Gold writer, Lauren Campbell, who works for Nesson now. So she's awesome. Nice. Yeah, she's a great writer. She does a fantastic job with Nesson. So congratulations to her, the two ladies on the winning the puck. But the jersey, Mr. Charlie Coyle, for $1, folks, went to the Bruins luchador. You see this guy, masked man, in the TD Garden all the time, dancing it up, whooping it up, and so on. Congratulations, Luch. David, this is for you. I'm sending this out as soon as possible, so congratulations on winning. And to everybody who shares, retweets, donates financially, supports us by doing all the awesome things, we cannot thank you enough. But we do please ask that you go up there and sign up and donate some cash to us. And what we do is we take half of your investment a month and put it towards paying the bills, the electricity, all the stuff that goes on in the Black and Gold production studio. And the other half is I just keep buying stuff. Like, check this out. I have jerseys for like until January 2022. And
no way.
Yeah, this is all I bought. Check it out.
Oh, that's nice.
So all of those are hand signed, and they're all
That's awesome.
All come with a certificate of authenticity and so on, and they all come from my friend Bruce Sullivan at Boston Sports and Music Memorabilia that we heard on the hour program. So really cool stuff. So yeah, definitely check it out, and it would really help us out financially, and we can't ask. Hey, if you do a share or retweet, that's like giving us $1, but we'll take that too. But to close, I do want to say thank you very much to Brett. Thank you so much for coming in. It was kind of 11th hour kind of edition, because I've been trying to get so much stuff done elsewhere out of the podcast realm, and a little bit of personal problems last week that kind of didn't do a show. But thank you for everybody for reaching out, seeing if I was okay. He's like, oh, he didn't do a podcast, he must be dead. But no, I really appreciate everybody that reached out and so on. We're going to get back on track and keep the train rolling. I'm really looking forward to Brett's podcast that's coming up soon in the next week or two, and another podcast that's coming in too. So we're going to have a full 10 shows. I'm working with our network provider, and I'm asking if we can add 5 more programs. So we might do 2 more Bruins related programs, and maybe even 3 league-wide shows. We might even open it up just a little bit to get a league-wide thing going on, when it's not just Bruins centric. It's more of we're addressing all the important issues that are going on in the NHL. So it remains to be seen. We have a ton of stuff going on. If you want to write for us, please go to blackandgoldhockey at gmail.com and let me know. Like, send me a cover letter, or you want to get into video or podcasting, whatever. It'd be great. But anyway, with all that jazz, Brett, thank you so much. I hope you had a good time, man.
Yeah, I did. Thank you for having me on. And yeah, like Mark said, just make sure you keep posted on both of our pages. The Beehive Pod will be coming soon, and I'm super excited to get going and be a part of the network.
Awesome. We can't wait to get you started and get you up to speed, and get all that equipment that you ordered all set up and ready to go, and we'll go from there.
Like a kid at Christmas.
Yeah. No kidding. All right, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Hopefully, we have some players that we like that want to stick around for another run, and maybe we get some additions for a potential run. Who knows? But trade deadline is tomorrow, so we'll talk about that. Also, if you're still listening to right now, tomorrow is Monday. What's the date tomorrow? The 12th.
12th, yep.
So at 6 p.m., 5 or 6 p.m., I'm going to be firing up another live stream, and we're going to do a round table kind of discussion on the hits and misses of the Boston Bruins. If they made a deal, or if not, if you want to get involved in that, please hit me up on Twitter. My address is right there. Oops, right there. So hit me up, send me a message, say I'd like to come in and have a civil conversation. And then we'll sit there and talk. No freaking out. No like ripping your jersey off and jumping out a window. I don't want to see that. But we'll sit down and talk about the trade deadline and what conspired with several different people on like a platform. Have a couple drinks, whatever. But and get the audio for that for a Wednesday release. So if you want to be involved, get in touch with me before Monday night, and I'll get that out on Wednesday. But anyway, enough of me freaking I will talk to everybody later. Thank you so much, Brett. Appreciate it. Take care, everybody. Be safe. Wear a mask. Get vaccinated, do all that stuff, spade your dogs and pets, whatever, those damn commercials. But all right, I'm out. Take care.
See ya.
Thanks again for listening to and supporting Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. Please share the show with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to and leave a 5-star rating for the show on your favorite podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Between shows, help us keep the Bruins talk going by visiting our website, blackandgoldhockey.com, by sending an email to blackandgoldhockeyblog@gmail.com, and by following the show on Twitter @blackandgoldpod.
Peace out.